After my husband had an affair, his mistress's husband came looking for me. He said, "I have a massive fortune. Just nod your head, and tomorrow we go sign the marriage papers." I thought for only a few seconds before agreeing. I sat engulfed in a secluded corner of a botanical garden cafe in downtown Los Angeles. I chose this specific spot myself. Hidden behind dense fern fronds, it provided me a full view of the outside space, while making it nearly impossible for anyone to notice my presence. On the table, the ice in my orange juice had melted long ago, leaving a bland drink separated into two distinct layers. About 30 feet away at table number 6, right next to the koi pond, sat my husband Tyler. He was not alone. The woman sitting opposite him, wearing a daringly high-slit red silk dress that flaunted her long legs, was Madison. I knew exactly who she was. Anyone working in the West Coast finance and logistics sector knew Madison. She was the wife of Nathan Sterling, chairman of Sterling Logistics, an absolute shark in the maritime freight industry. Tyler was smiling. That smile was one I used to love passionately. It was the smile that convinced me, a principled, rigid chief financial officer, to step back into a supporting role. I had drained all the savings I accumulated over 10 years of working to co-found his construction development firm. Tyler's hand, the hand still wearing the platinum wedding band I had picked out for him, was now blatantly, shamelessly caressing the back of Madison's hand. I didn't cry. My eyes were completely dry. At 32, a decade of wrestling with numbers, dry balance sheets, and stressful IRS tax audits had forged me a cold, calculating mind. I only felt my chest grow incredibly heavy, as if a 1,000-pound boulder were pressing down on it, cutting off all oxygen. A month ago, Tyler had come home looking utterly exhausted. He told me the company was in massive legal trouble and was on the verge of having all its assets seized by creditors. He begged me to sign a fake divorce agreement. "Haley, it's just a legal loophole." His voice had been full of pleading, so sincere that I didn't suspect a thing. "I need to hold the title to this new commercial lot, solely in my name, to recoup our capital. If we keep it under both our names and the company goes into Chapter 11, the bank will foreclose on the house you and our future kids live in. Just sign it. Once the storm passes, I'll put your name right back on." I signed it because I trusted my husband, because I wanted to protect the roof over the heads of our future children, even though we didn't have any yet. And now, the truth was playing out right before my eyes. There was no commercial lot. There was only a treacherous man calculating how to build a new nest on the sacrifices of his devoted wife. "Have you seen enough?" A deep, raspy voice echoed right above my head, startling me. I looked up. A tall man, wearing an expensive, custom-tailored charcoal gray suit, was standing there. His face was sharp and angular, his deep-set eyes as cold as a frozen winter lake. It was Nathan Sterling, chairman of Sterling Logistics, the husband of the woman currently making hard eyes at my husband over there. Without waiting for an invitation, Nathan pulled out a chair and sat opposite me. His demeanor was composed, radiating the authority of a man used to giving orders. He placed a thick manila folder on the table. The sound of the paper hitting the wooden surface produced a dry, sharp thud. "Your husband is spending my money," Nathan said. His tone was as casual as if he were discussing a monthly financial report, and he has already prepared his exit strategy to kick you out onto the street. I looked at the folder, then at Nathan. "What do you want?" Nathan didn't answer immediately. He pushed the folder toward me. "Open it. Page 5. I flipped through the papers with trembling fingers. Page 5 was a notarized copy of a judgment of dissolution of marriage, signed a week ago. The bright blue stamp of the county superior court mocked my life like a cruel joke. "How can this be?" My voice cracked. "He said he hadn't filed it yet. He said he was waiting for the financial trouble to blow over. He filed it the exact same day you signed it." Nathan cut in, his voice cold and cruel, yet it was the truth I needed to hear. "And because you signed the uncontested property settlement waiver to help him bypass the law, legally speaking, you are currently left with absolutely nothing. The house you live in, the car you drive, even the joint savings you withdrew to fund his investments, all of it legally belongs to him now." I dropped the folder. A sense of betrayal and deception rose in my throat, like bitter bile. I hadn't just lost a husband, I had lost my dignity, my faith in basic human decency. I, a CPA, certified public accountant, highly sought after by major corporations, had been brutally conned by the man sharing my bed. It was the worst miscalculation of my life, and the price was my entire youth and all my assets. Nathan observed my expression, his eyes narrowing in assessment. Heartbreak doesn't solve problems. You're a finance professional. You understand the rules of profit and loss better than anyone. This investment of yours is a total write-off. Now is the time to think about restructuring. I looked up at Nathan, struggling to regain my usual composure. I smoothed my hair and adjusted the collar of my silk blouse. You didn't track me down just to inform me that I'm a loser, did you, Mr. Sterling? The corner of Nathan's mouth twitched upward, seemingly satisfied with my sharp response. Very smart. Currently, legally, you are a single woman. I have also finalized my divorce from Madison, but she played a better hand than you did. She still holds financial power in my corporation because our asset division is still ongoing. She has planted her people in the accounting department, embezzling from the conglomerate to fund your ex-husband. Nathan paused, leaned forward, and lowered his voice. I have a net worth in the hundreds of millions of dollars, but I need someone I can trust, someone with the professional expertise to audit the entire system and choke off the dirty money Madison is siphoning out. I need a legal wife to replace her position and use that authority to purge the executive board. Why me? I asked, my brain rapidly crunching the variables. First, you have the motive. You hate Tyler and Madison. Second, your resume is flawless. Former CFO of a major retail group, licensed CPA, famous for having an iron fist in cost control. Third, and most importantly, neither you nor I have any faith left in love. We can cooperate based purely on mutual benefit. Nathan looked straight into my eyes, delivering his final offer. If you agree, be at the county clerk's office at 8 a.m. tomorrow. We will register our marriage. I looked over at the other table. Tyler was kissing Madison's forehead, wearing the smug, satisfied look of a winner. He thought I was a stupid, docile woman who only knew how to bury her head in the kitchen and in ledgers. He thought he had won. I turned back to Nathan for 3 seconds. That was all the time I needed to make the decision for the biggest gamble of my life. I had lost everything. I had nothing left to fear. Deal, I replied, my voice firm. I agree, but I have a condition. I want absolute, total control over the finance department of Sterling Logistics. You are not allowed to interfere with how I work. Nathan stood up, buttoning his suit jacket. See you tomorrow, Mrs. Sterling. He walked away, leaving me with the folder and a plan for revenge that was beginning to form clearly in my mind. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. I chose an ivory white tailored sheath dress, simple but elegant, accentuating the slender figure I usually hid inside oversized corporate pantsuits. I applied my makeup carefully, concealing the dark circles from a sleepless night spent reviewing corporate law regulations. Standing before the mirror, I looked at the woman staring back. She was no longer the Haley from yesterday. The Haley of yesterday had died along with those divorce papers. At exactly 7:55 a.m., I stood in front of the county clerk's office. A sleek black Maybach pulled up smoothly right in front of me. The door opened, and Nathan stepped out. Today, he wore a crisp white dress shirt without a tie, looking younger and less imposing than the day before. You're punctual, Nathan said, substituting it for a greeting. Professional habit, I replied curtly. We walked inside. The marriage registration process went surprisingly fast, thanks to Nathan's prior arrangements. When the pen hit the paper, when I signed my name next to Nathan Sterling on the marriage certificate, I felt a jolt of electricity run down my spine. It wasn't the thrill of love, but the adrenaline rush of a soldier receiving heavy artillery right before a battle. The clerk handed us 2 certified copies. Nathan took them and handed one to me. Welcome to Sterling Logistics, he said, changing his tone of address for the first time. Thank you, I smiled. An industrial, yet perfect smile. Stepping out of the building, the morning sun shone brightly, reflecting off the paper in my hand. I pulled out my phone, placed the marriage certificate on the hood of Nathan's Maybach, and took a crystal clear photo. In the picture, my name and Nathan's lay side by side, the official seal glowing over the gold-plated M-hood ornament of the Maybach. I opened iMessage and found the contact hubby, a name I hadn't had the time to change yet. I hit send on the photo, attaching a short, concise text. "Thank you for secretly setting me free early. Because of that, I made it in time to become the legal wife of the chairman of Sterling Logistics this morning. Best of luck to you and your mistress." I hit send. The status switched to delivered. Nathan stood nearby, watching my actions without stopping me. He simply smirked. "You're more aggressive than I thought. In business or in war, the element of surprise always dictates 50% of the victory." I put my phone into my designer bag. "Now, take me to the company. I need to start my job immediately." On the way to the Sterling Logistics corporate headquarters, Nathan handed me an employee ID badge and a formal appointment decree. "Chief Financial Officer, CFO." I raised an eyebrow. "You're trusting me with this position right away." "I don't trust you. I trust your hatred and your competence," Nathan said bluntly. "This position was previously controlled by Madison through her puppet, the former VP of Finance. I've terminated him and am putting you in. You hold the power of life and death in your hands. Use it well." I held the appointment letter, feeling its weight. This wasn't just a job. This was a sword of command. I closed my eyes, visualizing the organizational chart of Sterling Logistics that I had studied all night. Although Madison was divorced, she was still a major shareholder and held many trade secrets. Embezzling from the company couldn't be done alone. She definitely had an underground network supporting her. My mission was to chop off those tentacles one by one, isolate Madison, and most importantly, find the evidence that Tyler and Madison were conspiring to launder money. I was going to make Tyler regret ever underestimating a woman whose profession was guarding the vault. The car stopped in front of a massive 30-story glass skyscraper in the heart of the financial district. Nathan stepped out and walked around to open my door. This chivalrous act wasn't out of affection. It was a performance for the hundreds of employees looking through the lobby glass. "Ready?" Nathan asked softly. "Always," I replied, holding my head high and walking in parallel with him. From this exact second, the war had officially begun. The phone in my handbag started vibrating violently the moment I stepped into the chairman's private elevator. I glanced at the screen. It was Tyler. I didn't pick up. I let it ring until it went to voicemail, then let it ring a second time, and a third. My silence right now was the most terrifying psychological torture for him. Meanwhile, in a luxury condo in Santa Monica, Tyler was surely losing his mind. I could vividly picture the scene. He would throw the phone onto the sofa, face flushed red, limbs flailing in panic. Madison would be standing next to him, frowning, asking what was wrong. And when she saw the photo I sent, her heavily made-up face would drain of color. When the elevator stopped at the 30th floor, I finally, slowly, picked up. "Hello?" My voice was as calm as if I were taking a call from a delivery driver. "Haley! What the hell are you playing at? What is that picture? You photoshopped it, right?" Tyler screamed into the phone, his voice cracking with panic. He didn't believe it. Or he didn't dare to believe it. "Do you think I have the free time to take Photoshop classes?" I laughed coldly. "Black ink, white paper, official county seal. You're a CEO. Can't you tell a fake seal from a real one? Since when do you know Nathan? Were you cheating on me?" Tyler immediately resorted to slander, the age-old anthem of a thief crying robbery. "Don't project your own mindset onto others." I cut him off, my voice turning to steel. "You snuck behind my back to file the divorce papers." The court issued the judgment. "Legally, I was a single woman. Who I marry is my right. Furthermore, aren't you currently sleeping with my new husband's ex-wife? In business terms, we call that a fair trade." Haley Tyler was choked for words. On the other end of the line, I heard Madison snatch the phone. "You little bitch! You think you can just waltz into Sterling Logistics? As long as I'm here, don't you dare think you can climb the ladder." "Hello, Madison. I replied. My voice was sweet, but laced with poison barbs. You're mistaken. I didn't step in there to climb the ladder. I stepped in here as the legal wife of the chairman, as the lady of the house. You, on the other hand, are currently just a shareholder, an outsider. Oh, I forgot to announce I just accepted the appointment as CFO. The very first thing I'll be doing this morning is auditing all the accounts payable between Sterling Logistics and my ex-husband's company, Tyler Construction. You wouldn't dare, Madison screamed. Why wouldn't I? I continued. I heard Tyler Construction owes Sterling Logistics a massive amount in material advances, yet hasn't completed a single project milestone. As the CFO, I find this debt far too high risk. I think I'll have to recall the capital. Haley, don't do anything crazy. Tyler snatched the phone back, his tone shifting from aggressive to begging. Let's not be rash. What do you want? I'll give you a cut of the money from the commercial lot sale. Let's meet up and talk. The lot money? I scoffed. Keep it for yourself. You're going to need a lot of cash to hire defense attorneys for your upcoming corporate violations. I hung up and powered off the phone. The elevator doors opened. Before me was the grand executive lobby of Sterling Logistics. Employees were bustling about, but everyone stopped and bowed slightly when they saw Nathan. They looked at me with curious, probing eyes. Nathan turned to me, a hint of admiration in his gaze. You scared them half to death. Threatening is one thing, executing it is another. Just watch me. I gripped my handbag tightly and marched straight toward the accounting department. I didn't threaten. I declared war. The finance and accounting department was located on the 28th floor. Thick glass doors separated the world of numbers from the outside. I pushed the doors open and walked in. Nathan followed closely behind, forming an unshakable wall of backup. Inside, the room was as noisy as a chaotic market. People were huddled together, gossiping wildly. The news of the chairman's lightning-fast marriage had undoubtedly spread through the company. Quiet down, everyone, Nathan spoke. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried enough authority to render the entire floor dead silent. Every pair of eyes locked onto us. Nathan pointed toward me, introducing me to the staff. This is Haley, my wife, and the new chief financial officer of the corporation. From this moment on, every decision regarding accounts payable, receivable, and budget approvals must pass through Haley's hands. The formal appointment decree will be sent via internal email in 5 minutes. Whispers erupted again, but this time they were much more restrained. I scanned the room. In the corner, a middle-aged woman with thick, gold-rimmed glasses was glaring at me. Her eyes held no surprise, only blatant hostility. That was Evelyn, the current controller and Madison's trusted right-hand woman. I had studied the HR files meticulously. Evelyn was the one who had approved a slew of fake hospitality and entertainment expenses, so Madison could siphon cash. I walked straight up to Evelyn's desk. Hello, Evelyn. I need you to hand over all the ledgers, the digital signature tokens, and the admin passwords for the ERP management system immediately. Evelyn stood up, crossing her arms over her chest, acting arrogant, banking on her status as a veteran employee. Miss Haley, handovers require a protocol. You can't just demand years of ledgers on a whim. Furthermore, I work under the directive of the board of directors, which includes Miss Madison. Your appointment is too sudden. I need to confirm this with Madison first. She was deliberately stalling. She wanted to buy time to destroy evidence or alter the data. Evelyn, I smiled, placing the appointment decree bearing Nathan's wet signature and the corporate seal flat on her desk. According to the company bylaws, the chairman has the authority to appoint C-level executives in emergency situations. Miss Madison is currently just a shareholder and holds no executive operational power. The chairman's order overrides hers. I turned to Nathan, then looked back at Evelyn, my voice turning to iron. If you do not execute a full handover within the next 15 minutes, I will draft your termination papers immediately for insubordination and obstructing corporate operations. Simultaneously, I will have IT seal your computer and invite federal authorities to investigate suspicions of corporate embezzlement. Make your choice: a smooth handover or leaving in handcuffs. Evelyn's face turned ashen. She hadn't expected me to be so ruthless and so well-versed in corporate law. She glanced at Nathan, begging for help, but Nathan just stood there with his arms crossed. His expression clearly said, "I completely support my wife." Trembling, Evelyn fumbled to open her drawer, pulling out the ring of master keys and the digital tokens. I will hand them over." "Excellent." I turned to the cluster of employees holding their breath as they watched. Starting today, the workflow changes. Any disbursement over $50,000 must be presented to my desk. Anyone who dares to forge signatures or alter vouchers, you better write your resignation letter before I find out. I come from an auditing background. Do not try to play parlor tricks with me. I ordered the IT department to revoke Evelyn's access credentials immediately and reset all system passwords. After Evelyn sulked out of the room, carrying a cardboard box of her personal belongings, I sat down in the plush leather chair she had just vacated. I booted up the computer and logged into the system. The numbers began flooding the screen. A chaotic mess, but also a treasure trove full of criminal evidence. The desk phone rang. It was an internal call from Madison. "You've got some nerve, Haley. Daring to fire my people." "This is just the warm-up," I replied, my fingers still flying across the keyboard. "You should worry about guarding your own money closely. I see several wire transfers to your brother's media agency that look incredibly problematic. The input VAT invoices don't look legally compliant at all." The line went dead, followed by the harsh beep of her hanging up. I exhaled, leaning back in the chair. The real war was just beginning. I didn't just have to clean up this garbage dump. I had to set a trap so Tyler and Madison would walk right into the cage themselves. Nathan walked over and placed a hot cup of coffee on my desk. "You did great." "I didn't choose the wrong person. Don't praise me just yet." I took a sip of the coffee, the bitter and sweet notes blending on my tongue. "Brace yourself. A massive hurricane is coming." The lights in the office had all been turned off, leaving only the cold blue glow radiating from my computer monitors. The wall clock read 10 p.m. The other employees had gone home hours ago, but I was still sitting there, buried in the ledgers Evelyn had left behind. To me, numbers spoke, and right now, they were screaming about fraud. I didn't need brilliant cinematic hackers. I used the most fundamental auditing skills to strip bare the truth, cross-referencing and verification. I pulled up the trial balance for Q3. One line item smacked me right in the face. Outsourced service expenses had spiked abnormally, tripling compared to the same period last year. I clicked into the details for accounts 641 and 642. A massive series of journal entries recording marketing expenses, event organization, and strategic consulting, all funneled to a single vendor, Silver Sky Media LLC. I copied the EIN, Employer Identification Number, for Silver Sky Media and pasted it into the state's corporate registry database. The results popped up in a fraction of a second. The registered agent and legal representative was Hunter Davis. I smirked coldly. Hunter Davis was Madison's biological brother. The tactic was incredibly crude. Transfer money from the husband's pocket to the brother's pocket, and from there, funnel it right back into her own purse. I continued extracting all incoming electronic invoices from Silver Sky. The total value amounted to over $15 million in just 6 months. The descriptions on the invoices were incredibly vague. Logistics solutions, consulting fee, client networking gala fee. But when I cross-referenced the corporate calendar on the dates these events supposedly took place, there was absolutely nothing. No events, no guest lists, no proof of execution, no contract liquidation minutes attached. This was blatant invoice fraud to bleed the company dry and evade corporate income tax. I printed all the bank statements and suspicious invoices, clipping them into a red folder. This was just the tip of the iceberg. I needed to dig deeper into accounts payable. Scrolling down to the vendor payables, I spotted Tyler's company, Tyler Construction. The outstanding balance was $5 million. I opened the contract details. Sterling Logistics had contracted Tyler Construction to repair and upgrade the warehouse infrastructure at the Port of Long Beach. The contract was signed 3 months ago. Sterling Logistics had advanced 50% of the contract value, equating to $5 million. But when I checked the milestone inspection reports, the percentage of completion column was a perfect round zero, meaning Tyler had taken $5 million of Nathan's money but hadn't driven a single nail or laid a single brick. I picked up the phone and called the project manager for the warehouse division, Harrison. "Hello, Miss Haley?" Harrison's voice was groggy. "Sorry to bother you at this hour. I want to ask about the Long Beach warehouse upgrade being handled by Tyler Construction. What is the current status?" The other end was silent for a moment before he stuttered. Ma'am, they haven't brought any heavy machinery on site yet. I've pushed them multiple times, but the director over there keeps making excuses, saying they're waiting for material imports. Miss Madison specifically instructed us to give them some leeway." "All right, thank you. Tomorrow morning, send me a status report confirmed by the independent site inspector." I hung up. It was clear as day. Tyler was using Sterling's advance payment to float his own cash flow. Or worse, using it to buy that commercial lot he tricked me into signing the divorce papers for so he could hold the title alone. The office door swung open. Nathan walked in, carrying 2 takeout containers. "I thought you were planning to sleep at the office. Eat something, then get back to work." I looked at Nathan, then at the stack of files on the desk. I found the fox's tail. "That fast?" Nathan set the food down and pulled up a chair next to me. He smelled faintly of a pleasant, masculine cologne, vastly different from the cheap cigarette smoke Tyler had been reeking of lately. "They're greedy, but sloppy." I pointed at the screen. Or maybe they were too confident, thinking no one would dare audit the boss's wife's ledgers. "Look at this. $15 million wired to Madison's brother, $5 million advanced to Tyler, with 0 work done. A total of $20 million lost in just 2 quarters. Nathan looked at the numbers, his face hardening. I knew Madison was skimming, but I didn't expect the number to be that high. No wonder the company's operating cash flow, OCF, has been so strained lately. For a logistics conglomerate, cash flow is the blood that keeps the body alive. Having $20 million in cash drained in such a short period was like having an artery slashed. "Don't worry, I will recover all of it. Principal and interest." I opened the takeout box. The smell of grilled ribs wafted up, making my stomach roar. "Eat first." Nathan handed me a pair of chopsticks. An army marches on its stomach. "Tomorrow, we are going to have a very interesting board of directors meeting." I took the chopsticks. For the first time in months, I felt my food actually had flavor. Not because it was a delicious meal, but because I knew I was no longer fighting this war alone. Nathan took me back to his private estate in Malibu at midnight. The stark white mansion sat isolated, perched on a cliff overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Vast, expansive, but freezing cold. It was exactly like its owner. Luxurious, powerful, but lonely. "You're in this room." Nathan opened the door to a massive suite on the 2nd floor facing the ocean. "I had my staff furnish it entirely with your measurements in mind. If you need anything else, just tell the housekeeper." I stepped into the room. Everything was brand new, from the bed sheets to the curtains. There was absolutely no trace of a woman's touch, proving that Nathan had lived alone for a long time, or that Madison had never set foot in this room. "Thank you." Nathan stood leaning against the doorframe, looking at me for a moment before speaking. "Haley, ours is a contractual marriage. I respect your private space, but in front of the staff and outsiders, we must play our parts perfectly." "I understand. I'm a professional." The next morning, I went down to the dining room for breakfast. The long dining table could easily seat 20, but there were only 2 place settings at the head. Nathan was already sitting there, drinking black coffee while reading financial reports on his iPad. "Good morning." I pulled out a chair and sat down. "Morning. Sleep well last night?" Nathan asked, his eyes never leaving the screen. "Very well. The bed is much softer than the sofa I've been sleeping on for the past month at Tyler's." The housekeeper brought out 2 bowls of hot oatmeal and fresh fruit. I looked at the steaming food and suddenly felt a dip in my chest. How long had it been since someone cooked for me? At Tyler's house, I was always the first one up, prepping breakfast for everyone, ironing Tyler's suits, before rushing off to work. What is it? Not to your taste. Nathan looked up, noticing my hesitation. No, I shook my head, picking up my spoon. It's just unfamiliar. We ate in silence for a while before Nathan suddenly spoke. How do you plan to handle the debt from Tyler Construction today? I swallowed a bite, took a napkin, wiped my mouth, and answered clearly, I won't collect the debt the normal way. If I send a demand letter, he'll delay or declare bankruptcy. I'm going to use his own momentum against him. Specifically? Nathan looked intrigued. I will send an official notice to the bank, guaranteeing that advance payment. The contract has a performance bond and an advance payment guarantee clause. If Tyler Construction fails to execute the work, the bank is obligated to refund the money to Sterling Logistics. After that, the bank will go after Tyler to seize his assets. Nathan laughed out loud, a rich, hearty laugh. That's vicious. If the bank gets involved, his only option is to sell his house to pay off the debt. Otherwise, he'll be classified as a default risk. A substandard Tier 5 borrower. He'll never secure a loan again. I'm not done, I continued, my eyes sharp. I will hire an independent auditing firm to review the cost of goods sold on all the old projects Tyler Construction did for Sterling. I suspect they inflated the project scopes to siphon cash. If I find evidence, this turns into a federal criminal case, not just a civil dispute. Nathan looked at me, his gaze shifting from amusement to deep respect. You really were born to be my wife. We are cut from the exact same cloth. Breakfast ended in an atmosphere that was both strange and perfectly harmonious. Two damaged people finding sync in calculation and ambition. I realized that living with an intelligent, straightforward man like Nathan was far more pleasant than catering to a hypocrite like Tyler. My morning at the company started with an internal purge. I called an emergency meeting with the entire accounting department and the project management board. I slammed the investigation folder I compiled last night onto the conference table. The sharp thud made the whole room flinch. Inside this folder is a list of invoices showing signs of fraud from Silver Sky Media, alongside the contract status of Tyler Construction. Who directly monitors these accounts? A young male associate timidly raised his hand. Evelyn directed us to. We just did the data entry based on the vouchers she handed us. Data entry without verifying the validity and legality of the vouchers is gross negligence, I scolded mildly. Starting today, I am auditing the entire workflow. Anyone who discovers past violations and voluntarily confesses will be granted immunity and keep their job. Anyone who covers it up, I will terminate immediately and recommend for criminal prosecution. My declaration hit like a bucket of ice water on anyone planning to lay low. Immediately after the meeting, 3 employees secretly knocked on my door, asking for a private meeting to provide more information. From their testimonies, I pieced together the entire panorama of Madison and Tyler's money laundering ring. Tyler wasn't just bleeding his own construction firm dry. He turned Tyler Construction into a backdoor to process fake inbound invoices for Sterling Logistics. Specifically, if Sterling needed expenses to offset profits, Madison would instruct Tyler to issue fake invoices for labor and materials to Sterling. The cash moved from Sterling to Tyler Construction, then Tyler would withdraw the cash, keep a percentage fee, and hand the rest back to Madison. It was a perfectly closed loop. But they made a fatal error. The money moved in circles, but it didn't align with any actual flow of goods or services. I sat in front of my monitor, mapping out the cash flow diagram. An arrow from Sterling to Tyler Construction, from Tyler Construction to Tyler's personal account, and from Tyler's account to an offshore account registered to Carol Davis. I zoomed in on the name Carol Davis's. It wasn't a stranger. It was Tyler's biological mother. Her name was Carol. I shivered. Tyler used his own mother's bank account to receive dirty money. He didn't just betray me. He dragged his elderly mother back in her rural hometown into federal crimes without her knowing a thing. His cruelty had truly scraped the bottom of the barrel of human morality. The office door swung open again. This time it wasn't Nathan, it was Madison. She stormed in without knocking, followed by 2 massive bodyguards. "What the hell are you playing at?" Why did the bank freeze Tyler Construction's accounts? Madison roared, slamming her hands on my desk. I calmly took off my reading glasses and looked at her. Hello, Madison. Barging into my office without knocking is a violation of corporate policy. As for the bank freezing a vendor's account, that's the bank's business. Why are you asking me? Or do you have some vested interest in my ex-husband's company? Don't play smart with me. Madison pointed right in my face. You sent the demand letter recalling the advance payment, didn't you? You want to cut off Tyler's lifeline, don't you? I am merely fulfilling my duties as a CFO. Shareholder money cannot be bled out. $5 million is not small change. If Tyler Construction can prove their capacity to execute the work, the bank will unfreeze it. You're worrying too much. Madison gritted her teeth. You've got nerve. I'm warning you, if you dare to touch my interests, I will make you wish you were dead. You think Nathan loves you? He's just using you. At least he's using me openly and legally. I stood up to face Madison. My height rivaled hers. You and Tyler sneaking around behind people's backs, that is the kind of trash worthy of contempt. Go tell Tyler to get his money ready to pay off his debt. The deadline is in 3 days. Madison let out a scoff, spun on her heel, and stormed out. I knew she was terrified. Her octopus tentacles were being chopped off one by one. 3 days later, exactly as I predicted, Tyler couldn't scrounge up the cash to pay back the bank. He was backed into a corner, and a wounded animal usually bites back recklessly. Monday morning, an anonymous email was blasted to the inboxes of every employee at Sterling Logistics, including a hyperlink. The subject line was sensational. The truth about the new CFO, gold digger, or high-class escort. The link led to a meticulously edited video. Footage of me walking into a hotel, which was actually to meet a former audit client, was spliced with explicit audio. Below, it was a fabricated article claiming I had been having an affair with Nathan for a long time, conspired to steal Tyler's assets, and then kicked him to the curb to chase a billionaire. The whole company was buzzing. The looks I received shifted from fearful respect to disgusted curiosity. I sat in my office, my hand gripping the mouse tightly. Tyler was more cowardly than I thought. He wanted to use the court of public opinion to assassinate my character and force me to resign. My phone rang. It was Nathan. Did you see the email? Nathan's voice was unusually calm. I did. He plays dirty. Don't worry. Stay in your office. Don't come out. Let me handle it. 5 minutes later, the building's PA system crackled to life. Nathan's iron voice ordered every employee to assemble in the main ground floor lobby immediately. I went down as well. Nathan stood on the raised podium, his face radiating lethal coldness. Next to him stood the head of IT and the corporation's chief legal counsel. I just received information regarding an email smearing my wife, Haley Sterling. Nathan projected his voice across the massive lobby. I assert that this is blatant, malicious defamation. The IT department has traced the origin IP address to a public FedEx office computer just blocks away from the private residence of Mr. Tyler Davis, CEO of Tyler Construction. Nathan signaled. The giant screen behind him lit up, displaying CCTV footage pulled from the FedEx office's security cameras. It clearly showed Tyler, wearing a baseball cap and a surgical mask, hunched over a public computer at the exact timestamp the email was sent. The entire lobby gasped. My legal counsel is currently filing civil and criminal charges against Mr. Davis for defamation, libel, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Nathan continued. Furthermore, I want to make one thing crystal clear. Any employee of Sterling Logistics caught discussing or sharing this fabricated information will be terminated with cause immediately. We are a major corporation, not a flea market for cheap gossip. The crowd was dead silent. Nathan had extinguished the fire of public opinion the moment it sparked with undeniable evidence. Nathan then turned to me, his eyes softening. I have another gift for him. Nathan handed me a blue folder. What is this? I asked. Tyler's commercial loan file from Vanguard Trust Bank. He put up all his heavy machinery, his warehouse, and even his parents' farmhouse as collateral to borrow $2 million. The loan is 10 days past due and has been moved to default status. The bank is preparing for foreclosure. I opened the file. It was indeed Tyler's signature. He had hidden this loan from me to gamble and fund his lavish lifestyle with Madison. I had a chat with the bank. Nathan smirked the smile of an old wolf. They agreed to sell this distressed debt portfolio to an AMC asset management company, where I hold a controlling stake. I understood Nathan immediately. So, you are his creditor now? No, Nathan looked directly into my eyes. We are. You and me, we are his biggest creditors. Right now, the power of life and death is in your hands. Whether he lives or dies just requires a nod from you. Holding the debt portfolio, I felt like I was holding Tyler's death warrant. But I didn't want him to die just yet. I wanted him to taste the absolute panic, the utter helplessness that I had been forced to endure. I arranged a meeting with Tyler. The location wasn't a cafe, but right inside the offices of Tyler Construction. When I walked in, the office was deserted. Almost all the employees had quit due to unpaid wages. Tyler was slumped over his desk, surrounded by empty liquor bottles and scattered cigarette ash. He looked a decade older than he had a week ago. Seeing me, Tyler looked up, his bloodshot eyes flashing with anger. "What are you doing here? Come to laugh in my face? I came to collect a debt." I coldly slapped the debt portfolio onto his desk. Tyler glanced at it and scoffed. "Debt? I owe the bank, not you. Don't try to scare me. The worst the bank can do is seize the warehouse. I don't give a damn. Look closer." I pointed at the assignment of debt document. "The bank sold your debt to Apex Capital. And the legal representative of Apex Capital, by sheer coincidence, is me, Haley Sterling." Tyler's face lost all color. He picked up the paper, his hands shaking violently. "Impossible. How do you have the money to buy out my debt?" "It's Nathan. Nathan is behind this, isn't he? Who is behind it doesn't matter. What matters is that right now, I am your creditor. And according to the terms of the contract, I have the right to demand you surrender all collateral assets immediately to liquidate the debt." I looked around the dilapidated office. This warehouse, and those rusty excavators, probably won't cover it. "Oh, there's also your parents' farmhouse in Bakersfield, right? The mortgage contract clearly lists the deed and property belonging to Bob and Carol Davis." Hearing his parents mentioned, Tyler went into full panic mode. He lunged forward, trying to grab my hand, but I stepped back. Two of Nathan's massive bodyguards immediately stepped up to block him. "Haley, I'm begging you." Tyler collapsed to his knees on the floor, crying pitifully. "Whatever you want, I'll do it. Take the company, take it all. But please don't touch my parents' house. They're old and fragile. If they find out the house is being foreclosed, it will kill them." Looking at the man who used to be my husband kneeling and begging, I felt no vindication, only disgust. He used his parents as a human shield for his failures, yet he was the one who had wagered their property in the first place. "When you tricked me into signing the divorce papers, did you care that I would be thrown out onto the street?" I asked, my voice cutting like a knife. "When you were sleeping with Madison, did you care about my feelings?" I was wrong. Madison seduced me. She told me if I helped her launder the money this one time, we'd split $10 million. I got greedy. I was blinded. "Haley, please, for the sake of our 10 years of marriage, give me a way out. Our marriage ended the moment you put your pen on those divorce papers." I turned my face away. "I am giving you two choices. 1, you sign the transfer of all shares in Tyler Construction and the title to that new commercial lot you just bought over to me to offset the debt. 2, tomorrow morning I will send men to Bakersfield to padlock your parents' house." Tyler looked up, his face drained of blood. That commercial lot was his very last asset, but he had no leverage to bargain. "You have 5 minutes to think." I looked at my watch. Every second ticked by in heavy silence. The ticking of the clock sounded like a hammer against Tyler's nerves. "Fine, I'll sign." Tyler dropped his head, his voice a whisper. "Sign." I signaled the lawyer to present the pre-drafted documents. Tyler held the pen, his hands shaking as he signed page after page. Every signature seemed to drain a piece of his life force. Holding the signed documents, I felt relieved. I had taken back what belonged to me, and more importantly, I had stripped him of his illegal money-making tool. From now on, you have nothing left. Tyler, I said my final words before walking to the door. Live a decent life. Don't make your parents suffer anymore. Walking out of Tyler Construction, I saw Nathan waiting in the car. He looked at me and smiled. Done? Done. He signed it. Do you feel happy? I leaned my head against the seat, looking out at the busy street. Not happy, but I feel it's fair. The personal vendetta was halfway complete, but the war with Madison, and the money-laundering empire behind her, was the real challenge. Tyler was just a pawn. Madison was the queen on this chessboard, and I knew she wouldn't sit still seeing Tyler knocked off his horse. I didn't rush to bask in my victory over Tyler. To me, he was just a sacrificial pawn on the massive chessboard Madison was controlling. The real enemy was still sitting in the shadows, and to drag her into the light, I needed another pawn. A pawn who used to be Madison's closest ally, Evelyn. After being fired from Sterling Logistics, Evelyn found herself unemployed. With her resume blacklisted by a termination for ethical violations, no company dared to hire her. I had hired a private investigator to tail her, and found out Evelyn was living miserably in a rundown rental house in the suburbs, harassed daily by illegal gambling bookies. I decided to make my next move. On Wednesday afternoon, I drove to a deserted diner on the outskirts of the city where I had arranged to meet Evelyn. When I walked in, Evelyn was huddled in a corner booth, her hands shaking as she held a glass of ice water. She looked 10 years older than her arrogant days in the accounting department. Seeing me, Evelyn's eyes flashed with absolute terror. She tried to stand up and run. "Sit down," I said. My voice was calm, but carried enough authority to pin her in place. "If you walk out that door, I am sending this folder straight to the FBI." I placed a brown manila envelope on the table. Evelyn stared at it, swallowing hard. "What? What do you want?" "I already quit. I have nothing left for you to take. You quit, but your crimes are still on the books." I opened the envelope, pulling out several pages. "Here is proof that you colluded with the auto repair shops to inflate the maintenance costs of the company's container truck fleet over the past 3 years. The total amount you pocketed exceeds $200,000. That is corporate embezzlement. The federal sentencing guidelines for that carry 15 to 20 years in prison." Evelyn's face lost all color. She trembled, dropping to her knees right there in the booth. "Miss Haley, please let me go. I have an elderly mother and young kids. I can't go to prison. I blew all that money on the casinos. I have no way to pay it back." I looked at the weeping, begging woman in front of me. My heart held not a shred of sympathy, but my logic told me this was the perfect opportunity. "Get up. I didn't come here to listen to your sob story. I can let you off the hook. I can even help you pay off your outside debts." On one condition. Evelyn looked up, a fragile glimmer of hope in her eyes. "What condition?" "I'll do anything, as long as I don't go to prison. I want you to be my mole." I lowered my voice, looking straight into her eyes. "I know you are still in contact with Madison. She needs someone trustworthy to execute her underground transactions because she doesn't dare use Sterling's people anymore. I want you to go back, pretend to be loyal to her, and report her every move to me." Evelyn hesitated. She knew how vicious Madison could be, but the fear of federal prison was far greater. "If Madison finds out, she'll kill me. If you don't do it, the FBI will knock on your door tomorrow morning." I coldly delivered the ultimatum. "Besides, Madison abandoned you when you got fired, didn't she? Did she give you a single dime to pay your debts? Or did she treat you like a dog that had outlived its usefulness?" My words struck Evelyn's pent-up resentment. She clenched her fists, her eyes shifting from fear to sheer hatred. "You're right. She's an ungrateful bitch. I helped her make millions, and when I crashed, she wouldn't even answer my calls. Fine, I'll do it. What do you want to know?" "I want to know where Madison is liquidating her assets to. I heard rumors she's desperately stockpiling cash." Evelyn looked around nervously, then leaned close to my ear, whispering, "She's prepping for a massive score." She sold off her luxury properties in Aspen and Miami at fire sale prices and scraped together about $30 million. She plans to wire this money to a shell company in the Cayman Islands this Friday afternoon, under the guise of an investment consulting contract. Once the money clears, she's going to fly out and relocate there permanently, leaving the domestic debt for Sterling Logistics to shoulder. $30 million. A staggering number. If Madison pulled this off, Sterling Logistics would suffer catastrophic damage. The cash flow would break, and more importantly, she would escape justice spectacularly. Do you know which bank she's executing the transaction through? Vanguard Trust, the downtown LA branch. She has a tight relationship with the branch manager there, so they'll prioritize processing her international wire transfer quickly. I smiled. This information was worth its weight in gold. Excellent. Keep monitoring her, and text me the exact time she initiates the wire order. Once this is done, I will burn the folder with your embezzlement evidence, and I'll give you a bonus to restart your life. Evelyn nodded profusely. I stood up, left a 20 on the table for the water, and walked out. The afternoon sun cast a long shadow on the pavement. A flawless dragnet had formed in my mind. This Friday afternoon was going to be an unforgettable one for Madison. Friday afternoon, the atmosphere in my office was as tense as a drawn bowstring. Outside, it was pouring rain. The heavy droplets lashed against the glass windows as if trying to tear through the quiet space inside. I sat in front of my monitors, which displayed the cash management interface for the banking system Sterling Logistics used. Nathan sat in the chair opposite me, twirling a signature pen, his eyes glued to his phone. We were waiting for Evelyn's text. 2:30 p.m. Still, no movement. If Madison wanted to wire money internationally, same day, she had to execute the order before the Fedwire cutoff time. The final ledger close for international SWIFT transfers was usually 3:30 p.m. or 4 p.m. at the absolute latest. If it missed the cutoff, the wire would be held until the following Monday. For someone trying to flee like Madison, one extra day was far too long and fraught with risk. 2:45 p.m., my phone buzzed. A text from Evelyn. She had just arrived at the bank and was going into the VIP room to meet the branch manager. "The fish is in the net," I said to Nathan. "She's at the bank." Nathan nodded, his face hardening. "Are you sure you can block it? If that money crosses U.S. borders, it's gone for good." "Don't worry, I've already set the trap." I opened another chat window, messaging Mitchell, the VP of Corporate Banking at Vanguard Trust, who also happened to be an old college friend of mine. I had given Mitchell a heads up about signs of fraudulent transactions linked to Madison's accounts. As the CFO of Sterling Logistics, I had the authority to request freezes or reviews of abnormal transactions from accounts linked to major shareholders currently in dispute. 3:10 p.m. The system pinged with a balance fluctuation alert. A wire transfer order for $30 million had just been initiated from Madison's personal account. Memo: payment for investment consulting contract. No, 1/2023. Beneficiary: Sunny Investment LLC, Cayman Islands. There it is. I pointed at the screen. The order status read, pending approval. I immediately called Mitchell. "Mitch, the $30M wire just hit the system. That is the embezzled money I warned you about. Block it right now." On the other end, I heard the rapid clacking of a keyboard. "I see it, Haley. That's a massive amount, but the branch is pushing hard to approve it immediately. The branch manager says she's a VIP client. The commercial paperwork is fully documented. If I block it without cause, I'll get hit with a massive complaint. That paperwork is forged. Sunny Investment is a shell company," I spoke quickly, my voice like steel. "I am currently overnighting an emergency injunction to freeze Madison's assets, issued by the Superior Court handling the post-divorce asset dispute. Just use the compliance risk flag excuse to suspend the order. Just drag it out past 3:30 p.m., and she's dead in the water." "All right, I trust you. I'll route the file to the AML, Anti-Money Laundering Compliance Department, for a thorough review. That'll take at least 2 hours. Once it passes the Fedwire cutoff, God himself couldn't wire that money today." I hung up, breathing a massive sigh of relief. On the screen, the order status flipped from pending approval to under review. In the VIP room of the bank, I could vividly imagine the chaotic scene. Madison was sitting on hot coals. She was checking her watch. 3:20 p.m. Only 10 minutes left until the international cutoff. Evelyn texted again. Madison was screaming at the bank tellers. She was demanding to speak to the regional director. Her face flushed crimson. I texted back, "Let her scream. The regional director is busy in a meeting with me right now." There was no meeting, of course. But I knew banking protocols. When a transaction is flagged for high risk, no one dares to rubber stamp it blindly, especially in an era where federal anti-money laundering regulations are heavily enforced. 3:30 p.m. The SWIFT system closed. Madison's wire transfer was officially rejected due to transaction requires supplementary documentation, verifying lawful origin of funds. The money was still in the account, but it was frozen. Madison couldn't wire it out, nor could she withdraw it as cash. Nathan looked at me, his eyes full of admiration. He stood up, poured a glass of red wine, and handed it to me. "Congratulations. A perfect knockout. You didn't just keep the money. You cut off her escape route." I held the glass, swirling it gently. The dark red wine sloshed like the blood of an enemy. We aren't done yet. When an animal is backed into a corner, it turns around and tears into its own kind. Madison lost her money. The first person she'll take her rage out on is Tyler. Let's wait and watch the next act. Exactly as I predicted, the failure at the bank pushed Madison into a state of sheer lunacy. She couldn't believe her perfect escape plan was blocked at the final second by a damn technicality. The moment she stepped out of the bank, Madison received a call from Tyler. My ex-husband was in a more pathetic state than ever before. After signing over his assets to me, he was swarmed by underground loan sharks, the mobsters he had borrowed cash from, to cover his gambling debts, who had surrounded his parents' farm. He was hiding like a rat in a cheap motel, calling Madison as his absolute last lifeline. "Madison, help me!" Tyler's voice cracked over the phone. "They're threatening to kill my whole family if I don't pay 500 grand in interest tonight. Please, loan me some cash. Once this nightmare is over, I'll work like a dog to pay you back." Madison, already furious over having $30 million frozen, flew into an absolute rage hearing Tyler whine. She screamed into the phone, dropping every ounce of her elegant facade. "Shut your mouth. I'm practically dead here myself. My money was frozen by your ex-wife. You useless parasite. If you hadn't been stupid enough to sign those divorce papers early, I wouldn't be completely trapped by her." "What are you saying?" Tyler was stunned. "What does Haley have to do with this?" "Ask her. She's the one who tampered with the banking system to block my money. You and her are a bunch of worthless scum. Don't ever call me again." Madison hung up and blocked his number. She got into her car and ordered her driver to head straight back to her Newport Beach mansion, where she kept her remaining liquid assets like jewelry and diamonds. She had to find another way out, maybe a private boat down to Mexico, then a flight to Europe. On the other end of the line, Tyler dropped his phone. His final hope was extinguished. He sat slumped on the dirty motel floor, surrounded by empty instant ramen cups. He realized he had lost everything: his wife, his house, his career, and now his mistress, the person he believed would bring him a life of royalty. Out in the hallway, heavy footsteps and the cursing of hired thugs echoed loudly. "Where the hell is Tyler? Get out here. You think you can hide from us?" Tyler panicked entirely. He looked out the window. The third floor wasn't too high, but jumping would break his legs. He had nowhere to run. In his desperation, he came up with a cowardly, familiar idea: fake an illness to escape responsibility. He grabbed a fruit knife from the table and made a shallow cut on his wrist, just enough to bleed but not life-threatening. Then he collapsed onto the floor, faking convulsions. He knew if he was taken to the ER, the loan sharks wouldn't dare cause a scene inside a hospital, and the police would get involved to protect him. When the thugs kicked the door in, they saw Tyler lying motionless in a pool of blood, which was actually blood mixed with ketchup from his food that he had smeared around to look horrific. Terrified that they'd be pinned for a murder, the thugs scattered. The motel manager heard the noise, ran up, saw the scene, and called 911. Tyler was rushed to Cedars Sinai Medical Center. He lay on the gurney, his eyes shut tight, but his ears picking up every sound. He told himself, I made it. At least I'm safe for tonight. But he had no idea that the news of his hospital admission was reported to me by Nathan's people instantly. He's acting. I watched the motel hallway security footage the private investigator sent over. Look at him smearing ketchup on himself. It's pathetic. What do you want to do? Nathan asked, adjusting his tie. Visit your old patient? I have to. After all, we carry the title of 10 years of marriage. Furthermore, I need to give him a dose of medicine to wake him up completely. The intensive care unit smelled strongly of antiseptic. Tyler lay on the hospital bed, his wrist wrapped in thick white gauze, an oxygen mask covering his nose and mouth. He kept his eyes closed, pretending to be in a deep coma, but I noticed his heart rate on the monitor was beating steadily, even a bit fast from anxiety. Nathan and I walked in. I wore an all-black outfit, holding a bouquet of white chrysanthemums, the kind of flowers people bring to funerals. Nathan walked beside me, his demeanor imposing, carrying a sleek black leather briefcase. The triage nurse tried to stop us, since visiting hours were over, but Nathan flashed his hospital VIP donor card. Sterling Logistics was a major medical equipment donor for this hospital. The nurse immediately nodded, bowed slightly, stepped out, and closed the door. I approached the bed and placed the white chrysanthemums on the nightstand. The click of my high heels against the tile floor created a cold, dry echo. Stop pretending, Tyler. Your acting is terrible, I said calmly. Tyler lay perfectly still, his eyelids trembling slightly. He was trying to outstubborn me. If you won't wake up, I guess I'll just have to talk to a corpse. I pulled up a chair and sat down. The doctor said the cut on your arm was superficial, 3 stitches, and you're fine. But this disease of yours running from modern medicine can't cure that. Tyler knew he couldn't fake it anymore. He slowly opened his eyes, pulled down the oxygen mask, and looked at Nathan and me with eyes full of hatred mixed with terror. What are you doing here? Came to see if I'm dead yet. Dying is too easy for you, Nathan spoke up, standing with his arms crossed at the foot of the bed. We came to bring you some good news. The mobsters hunting you down were busted by the LAPD last night. Tyler's eyes lit up. Really? So I'm safe? Safe from the mob, sure. I smiled. The smile Tyler used to call angelic was now as sharp as a scalpel. But safe from the law? Not quite. I signaled Nathan. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a document bearing the stark seal of the Internal Revenue Service, IRS. This is an official indictment for federal tax evasion against Tyler Construction. The total amount of tax fraud and fabricated corporate invoices amounts to $5 million. Federal investigators have sufficient evidence that you purchased fake invoices from a network of shell companies owned by Madison's family. Tyler bolted upright, forgetting the pain in his arm. No, it wasn't just me. It was Madison. She ordered me to do it. I was just the guy signing the papers. You signed the papers, which means you answer to the law, I replied coldly. Madison is very smart. Her name isn't on a single document in your company. Every signature, every corporate seal, belongs to the CEO, Tyler Davis. Do you think a federal judge will believe the testimony of a man drowning in debt, or will they believe black ink and white paper? Tyler trembled, sweat pouring down his face like rain. He understood he was standing at the gates of federal prison. Tax evasion on this scale meant 10 years minimum, possibly up to 20. Haley, save me! Tyler resorted to his old tricks, scrambling out of bed to his knees in front of me. You're a CFO, you know the law, please save me. I don't want to go to prison. I still have my elderly parents. I looked at him without a shred of sympathy. I gave you a chance when I took your assets to clear your bank debt, saving you from a charge of abuse of trust to appropriate property. But your greed was bottomless. You people went too far. Is there any way out? Nathan interjected suddenly, playing good cop in this theatrical production. If you cooperate with federal investigators, confess fully, and provide concrete evidence against the true mastermind, you might secure a plea deal for a reduced sentence. Tyler looked like a drowning man grabbing a lifeline. He turned to Nathan, nodding frantically. I'll confess. I'll tell them everything. I kept a black ledger detailing every single cash split with Madison. She forced me to log it so we could reconcile later. I hid it in the floor safe at my parents' farmhouse. Nathan and I exchanged a look. This was exactly what we needed. That ledger would be the final nail in Madison's coffin. Excellent. I stood up. You just stay here and recover. The federal agents will be here shortly to take your statement. Make sure you confess fully. It is your only path to survival. We walked out of the hospital room. Tyler sat slumped on the floor, his face vacant. He knew his life as he knew it was over, but at least he had the chance to drag Madison down into the mud with him. Walking down the hallway, Nathan took my hand and squeezed it gently. You're brilliant. 1 arrow, 2 targets. We dealt with Tyler, and we have the evidence to throw Madison in a cell. It's all thanks to your excellent acting. I pulled my hand back and adjusted my hair. Now, let's go get that ledger, before Madison smells danger. The rain outside had stopped. A faint rainbow appeared on the horizon. I took a deep breath of the crisp air after the storm. The war was almost over. Nathan and I left the hospital that very night. Nathan offered to let his driver take us, but I refused. I wanted to drive myself. The feeling of steering the car through the night helped clear my mind. The Maybach sped down Interstate 5 toward the Central Valley, heading to Tyler's hometown. His family lived in a small, rural farming town near Bakersfield, surrounded by sprawling fruit orchards. I hadn't been back here in 3 years. The last time was for Tyler's grandfather's funeral. Back then, I was still the devoted, virtuous daughter-in-law, bustling around the kitchen cooking for the entire extended family. What are you thinking about? Nathan asked, breaking the silence in the car. I'm thinking about Tyler's parents, I confessed. They are honest, hard-working farmers who spent their whole lives working the soil. They loved me dearly. If they find out their son has sunk this low, and that the person putting him in federal prison is the daughter-in-law they used to love, they'll be utterly devastated. Nathan sighed, looking out into the pitch-black night beyond the window. That is the tragedy of greed. Tyler chose this path. He has to take responsibility. As for you, you are doing the right thing. If we let Tyler and Madison continue to run wild, how many other families would be destroyed by their dirty money? I nodded, but my heart remained heavy. Justice is sometimes terribly cruel. At 3 a.m., our car pulled up in front of the gate of a familiar, simple farmhouse. The iron gate was rusted, and the bougainvillea draped over the porch still bloomed brightly under the dim yellow streetlights. I stepped out of the car, the chill of the night dew seeping into my skin. The farm dogs barked loudly. A moment later, the porch light flicked on, and the heavy wooden front door opened. Tyler's father, Bob, threw a worn flannel shirt over his shoulders and stepped out, holding a flashlight. Who's there? His voice was raspy from sleep. Dad, it's me. Haley, I called out. Bob squinted, then gasped. Haley? What are you doing here at this hour, honey? Where's Tyler? He hurriedly unlocked the gate. Carol, Tyler's mother, also ran out, warmly taking my hands. You came home without calling so I could make dinner. Oh, my lord, you're freezing. Come inside, sweetheart. Seeing their profound warmth, my heart clenched. They still knew nothing about the divorce, and certainly nothing about the terrifying events unfolding up in Los Angeles. Tyler had kept them completely in the dark. I had an urgent matter to attend to, I said. This is Nathan, a colleague of mine. I introduced Nathan briefly. Tyler's parents warmly invited us inside, brewing tea and bringing out fruit to offer us. The house was exactly as I remembered it, simple and cozy. On the wall still hung my wedding photo with Tyler. The radiant smiles we both wore back then now looked bitterly ironic. Mom, Dad, I set my teacup down, taking a deep breath to gather my courage. I am so sorry. I didn't come back today to visit. I came to retrieve something Tyler hid in your floor safe. Bob looked surprised. What did Tyler hide? He told us that safe was just for property deeds. He hid evidence of his crimes, Dad. I said straight to the point, not beating around the bush. Tyler has been doing illegal business, committing tax evasion and money laundering. The FBI is currently investigating. If I don't retrieve this evidence to hand over and negotiate a plea deal, Tyler could go to federal prison for a very, very long time. Carol dropped her teacup, shattering it on the floor. She gripped the edge of the table, trembling. What are you saying? Our Tyler is such a good boy. He's changed, Mom. He listened to bad people, got greedy, and acted recklessly. Please trust me. I am the only person who can help him right now. Bob stared at me, his cloudy, aged eyes flashing with absolute agony. He understood me. He knew I never lied. He stood up silently and walked into the back bedroom. A moment later, he returned and placed a small metal lockbox on the table. He mailed this back last week. He said it was a good luck charm for his business and forbade us from opening it. See if this is it. I opened the box. Inside was a black, leather-bound ledger and a USB drive. I flipped through the pages. Tyler's handwriting meticulously detailed every date and time, the amount received from Madison, where it was wired to, and who got what percentage. This is it, the ledger of death. I closed the book and held Carol's wrinkled hands. Thank you. I promise I will do everything in my power to get Tyler a reduced sentence, but I also have to tell you the truth about one more thing. What else, honey? Carol's eyes brimmed with tears. Tyler and I are already divorced. The atmosphere in the room froze solid. The only sound was the steady ticking of the grandfather clock. Carol broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. Bob slumped into his chair, his aged face looking completely destroyed. I didn't dare stay any longer. I was terrified I wouldn't be able to hold back my own tears. I left an envelope of cash on the table, my very first month's salary from Sterling Logistics. Please take this to help with your medical expenses. I have to go now to make it in time. Nathan and I walked quickly out to the car. Behind us, Carol's weeping echoed through the quiet, rural night. Once in the car, I buried my face against the steering wheel. My tears overflowed, unable to be held back any longer. Cry. Nathan placed a hand on my shoulder, patting gently. Cry to lighten your heart. You've done everything you possibly could. I cried my eyes out. I cried for the shattering of a 10-year marriage. I cried for the two innocent, elderly parents, and I cried for the death of my own naive innocence. As dawn began to break over the horizon, I wiped my tears and started the engine. Let's go home. We have one more important meeting with the FBI. Madison is not getting away. Monday morning at 8 a.m., the Sterling Logistics corporate headquarters was surrounded by dozens of police cruisers, FBI vehicles, and news vans. News of the multi-million-dollar money laundering scandal rocking the financial world had leaked partially, of course, due to Nathan's media influence. Nathan and I sat in the chairman's office, monitoring the situation via security cameras. Have the federal investigators received the ledger and the USB? Nathan asked the chief legal counsel over the phone. Delivered in full at 6 a.m. this morning, sir. The special agent in charge of the Financial Crimes Division personally reviewed it and signed an emergency federal arrest warrant for Miss Madison Sterling. Good. And Tyler? Mr. Davis has been remanded into federal custody, pending trial. He is currently being transferred from the hospital to the Federal Correctional Institution. I looked out the window at the dark, swirling storm clouds. The legal hurricane had officially made landfall. Meanwhile, at Madison's private mansion in Newport Beach, everything was in sheer chaos. Madison, after a sleepless night agonizing over her frozen $30 million, was frantically shoving jewelry, Rolex watches, and stacks of cash into a large suit. Unable to wire the money, she decided on Plan B. Flee to Mexico via a private yacht, then fly to Europe. She had already hired a smuggling crew for $50,000. Hurry up, Madison screamed at her maid. Leave the Hermes bags, just pack the diamonds. The doorbell rang furiously. Madison flinched, dropping a diamond ring onto the floor. She checked the intercom screen. Police. Dozens of heavily armed SWAT officers were standing at her gate. An officer with a megaphone yelled, "Madison Sterling, open the door and cooperate. We have a federal arrest warrant." Madison's face lost all color. She sprinted toward the back door, leading to her private dock, where a speedboat was supposed to be waiting. But Madison miscalculated a crucial step. Nathan and I had anticipated this. When Madison threw open the back gate, she froze. Standing, blocking her path wasn't the boat pilot she hired, but two massive FBI special agents. "Where are you going, miss?" "Sterling?" one agent asked, his voice like iron. Madison stumbled backward, dropping her suitcase. Stacks of cash and jewelry spilled all over the ground. She spun around, intending to run back inside, but the SWAT team had already breached the front doors and swarmed the house. Caught in a pincer movement, Madison shrieked in absolute despair. "I didn't do anything. Let me go. This is a setup. I want my lawyer." The agent coldly read her the warrant and slapped the handcuffs on her wrists. The image of the once glamorous, aristocratic logistics queen, now disheveled and frantic, being dragged away between lines of federal agents, was captured by dozens of paparazzi telephoto lenses stationed outside. Within an hour, photos of the logistics queen's downfall flooded the internet. Stock prices of companies linked to Madison's family plummeted into a freefall. I turned off the TV. "It's over." My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, but I knew it was Evelyn. "Thank you, Miss Haley. I saw the news. I will keep my promise and disappear from this city." I deleted the text. Evelyn was just a victim of her own greed and weakness. I didn't want to hunt her to the ends of the earth. Nathan poured 2 glasses of red wine and handed one to me. "Cheers. To justice. And to peace." I gently clinked my glass against his. But inside, I didn't feel the euphoric triumph I had imagined. This victory had the astringent taste of Carol's tears back at the farm and the bitter taste of betrayal. I looked at Nathan, the man who had stood shoulder to shoulder with me throughout this war. He was looking at me too. His eyes no longer held cold calculation, but a profound, deep understanding. "I'm tired," I said softly. "Rest. Let the lawyers handle the rest. Today, you are officially on vacation." I smiled. For the first time in months, my smile felt genuinely light. 1 month later, at the Federal Correctional Institution, I was permitted a visitation with Tyler as a legally interested party to finalize some property asset transfers. Tyler had withered away to skin and bones. His head was shaved, and he wore a baggy orange jumpsuit. His eyes were sunk deep into dark, hollow sockets from insomnia. Seeing me, he kept his head bowed, not daring to look up. "How are you?" I asked. A polite question, but tinged with bitterness. "A living hell," Tyler mumbled. "Being in here. I finally understand the price I have to pay. Every night I dream about my parents. I dream about you. Your parents are fine. I send them money every month. They still think you're away on a long business trip overseas. I didn't have the heart to tell them the truth about you going to federal prison." Tyler's head snapped up, tears pouring from his eyes. You're still taking care of my parents. After everything I did to you, I do it for my own conscience, not for you," I replied decisively. "They are good people. They don't deserve to suffer this punishment." I slid a piece of paper under the partition glass. "This is a civil settlement agreement. Sign it. I will use the assets you transferred to me to pay restitution and cover the back taxes you evaded. Doing this will count as a mitigating factor. Your sentence could be reduced from 15 years down to 7 or 8. Tyler held the pen, his hand shaking. He stared at me blankly. "Why? Why are you saving me? You should hate me." "I do hate you. To my very bones." I looked straight into his eyes. "But I don't want to keep that dirty money. I want to wipe every trace of you from my life so I can start fresh without my conscience eating at me. Consider this the last shred of mercy I have for the man I used to call my husband." Tyler buried his face in his arms on the table, sobbing hysterically like a child. He signed his name on the paper, the jagged letters smudging from his tears. Leaving the visitation room, I bumped into Madison's defense attorney walking in. He shook his head wearily when he saw me. "How is Madison?" I asked. "Terrible. She still refuses to plead guilty. She just screams and demands to countersue you and Mr. Sterling. But the evidence in the ledger and Tyler's testimony is bulletproof. She's facing a life sentence for masterminding corporate fraud, money laundering, and grand larceny. All her assets are frozen. No one can save her." I nodded at him and kept walking. Madison and Tyler, Two people who had conspired to trample on me were now tearing each other apart in prison. Their demonic alliance had collapsed entirely before the truth and the law. I walked out the gates of the prison into the blinding California sun. Nathan was leaning against his car waiting for me, holding an iced matcha latte, my favorite drink that I had offhandedly mentioned during dinner once. All done? Nathan handed me the drink. All done. I feel so much lighter. Then let's go home. There's an important shareholder meeting this afternoon. The chief financial officer cannot be absent. I took the drink, taking a long, cold sip. The sweetness spread, washing away the bitter taste of the past. Yes, let's go home, hubby. It was the first time I had called him hubby without feeling awkward or fake. Perhaps after the rain, the sun shines again, and after being broken, a person learns to cherish what they currently have. The federal economic trial of the Sterling Logistics executives took place 6 months later. It was a highly publicized trial due to the massive dollar amount and the identities of the defendants. I sat in the gallery reserved for interested parties, right next to Nathan. At the defendants' table, Madison and Tyler sat far apart, refusing to look at each other. Madison had aged visibly. Her hair was half gray, her face gaunt, lacking any of her former aristocratic aura. She continuously denied her crimes, blaming her circumstances, blaming her subordinates, and even blaming Nathan for backing her into a corner. But against the ironclad evidence presented by the FBI and the sharp arguments of the U.S. attorney, all her defenses were rendered meaningless. Tyler, on the contrary, was fully cooperative. He bowed his head, pleaded guilty, and publicly apologized to his family and society. He admitted that greed had blinded his rationality and accepted any punishment. After 3 days of intense trial proceedings, the judge handed down the sentence. Madison Sterling was sentenced to life in federal prison for embezzlement, corporate fraud, and massive money laundering. She was ordered to pay full restitution of the $30 million she stole, and all her personal assets were seized by the federal government. Tyler Davis was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison for tax evasion and aiding and abetting. Thanks to the mitigating factors of voluntarily paying restitution and his full cooperation, he escaped the maximum penalty. When the judge read the verdict, Madison collapsed to the floor, wailing hysterically. Tyler just quietly bowed his head, accepting his fate. He turned to look at me one last time, his eyes filled with regret and gratitude. I gave a slight nod, a silent farewell to the past. The trial adjourned, and the crowd poured out of the courtroom. Nathan held my hand as we walked through a forest of reporters' camera lenses. "It's really over," Nathan said. "Yes. You reap what you sow. Karma doesn't miss anyone," I replied. We stepped out of the courthouse gates. The blazing sun made me squint. It was over. My goal for revenge was accomplished. The traitors had paid the price. But strangely, I didn't feel the euphoric high I thought I would. I only felt a vast, echoing emptiness. I turned to look at Nathan. He still stood there, as solid and unshakable as a mountain. He had helped me walk this entire path. But now, with our common enemy gone, did we have any reason to keep walking together? "I want to go home and rest for a bit," I said softly. "All right, I'll take you home." In the car, we didn't say a single word to each other. I stared out the window, my mind projecting the days to come. It was time to execute the final clause of our contract. 1 week after the trial, everything at Sterling Logistics had fallen back into a perfect orbit. I spent the entire morning reorganizing the financial portfolios and handing over the internal control protocols to my subordinates. Everything was neat and transparent, exactly matching my work style. At noon, I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a white envelope I had prepared the night before. Inside was a mutual divorce petition, already bearing my signature. I took a deep breath. This was what we agreed upon from the very beginning. This marriage was built on mutual benefit and the shared goal of taking down Madison. Now that the goal was achieved, I had no reason to keep Nathan tied down. He was an exceptional man. He deserved a wife who came to him with pure love, not because of a revenge contract. I walked over to Nathan's office. He was on a video conference with a European partner. Seeing me enter, He gestured for me to wait. I sat down on the familiar leather sofa, quietly watching him work. His intense focus, the decisiveness in his words, his sharp eyes, all of it had become so incredibly familiar to me. I realized just how much I was going to miss him. 15 minutes later, Nathan ended the call. He walked over to me, smiling. "What's up? Why is the CFO coming all the way to my office? Discovered someone else embezzling funds?" I didn't smile. I placed the white envelope on the coffee table and pushed it gently toward him. "No. I came to liquidate our contract." The smile vanished from Nathan's face. He looked at the envelope, then at me, his eyes darkening. "What is this?" "Divorce papers," I answered clearly, trying to keep my voice from shaking. "We had an agreement. Once the job was done, I would return your freedom. Madison is in prison. The company is stable. My mission is complete." Nathan picked up the envelope, but didn't open it. He twirled it in his hands, his expression deep and unreadable. "Do you really want to leave?" "Yes. I don't want to take advantage of your kindness any longer. I have enough assets to live comfortably for the rest of my life. I want to go find myself again." "Find yourself again?" Nathan scoffed, a hint of sarcasm in his voice. "Or are you planning to run away?" "I'm not running away. I am simply executing our commitment." "You're a businessman. You understand the importance of keeping your word better than anyone." I stood up, not daring to look him straight in the eye any longer. "I've already packed my things at the Malibu house. Thank you for everything you've done for me during this time. Goodbye, Nathan." I turned my back and walked away, my feet feeling as heavy as lead. I waited for a word to stop me, a single sentence from him. But behind me, there was only a terrifying silence. I stepped out of the office, closed the door, and the tears began to fall heavily. Was this really the end? I returned to my old apartment condo, which I had bought back with my own money after selling the assets Tyler transferred to me. The apartment felt empty and freezing. I sat numbly on the sofa, staring at my phone screen, hoping for a text or a call, but there was nothing. Nathan didn't call. 1 day, 2 days, then 3 days passed. I tried to force myself back into a normal rhythm, going to Pilates, shopping, meeting friends for brunch, but my mind was constantly suspended in midair. Images of Nathan kept haunting my thoughts. On the afternoon of the 4th day, my apartment doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole, my heart practically leaping out of my chest. It was Nathan. I opened the door. Nathan stood there, still wearing his usual sharp suit, but his face looked remarkably exhausted. Without saying a word, he stepped right into my apartment. "What are you doing here?" I asked, trying to act tough. "Did you sign the papers yet?" Nathan didn't answer. He reached into his inner suit pocket and pulled out the divorce papers I had given him. Right in front of my face, he tore it in half. Then into quarters. He crumpled it into a ball in his fist. "What are you doing?" I gasped. "Canceling the contract termination," Nathan said, his voice deadpan. "As the chairman of the board, I do not approve this resignation letter of yours. You're being unreasonable. This is a marriage, not corporate governance." Nathan stepped closer, pinning me against the wall. The distance was so close I could feel his breath. "To me, they are one and the same. You listen to me very carefully, Haley. My net worth is in the hundreds of millions. My ledgers are piled like mountains. I have thousands of employees. I cannot manage this empire alone. You are the only person who understands every nook and cranny of Sterling Logistics. You are the only person I trust, absolutely. Are you really going to abandon your post halfway and leave me to manage this chaos alone?" "You can hire another CFO," I protested weakly. "I can hire a CFO. I cannot hire a wife." Nathan looked deep into my eyes, his gaze burning. "I don't need a trophy wife for display. I need a partner. Someone with enough grit to stand beside me, enough intelligence to advise me, and enough ruthlessness to protect this family with me. That person can only be you, but we started with a business contract." "What about that?" I interrupted. "In business, the most successful contract is the one both parties want to extend for a lifetime. I want to extend this marriage contract with you. The term is indefinite." The profits are split 50 over 50. I'll carry all the risk. Do you dare to sign it? It was the driest, most pragmatic, and most shark-like love confession I had ever heard in my life. Yet, it made my heart race wilder than any sweet, poetic words ever could. He didn't say I love you, but he affirmed my irreplaceable position in his life and his empire. I looked down at the shredded paper on the floor, then looked up at him. You're very sly. Recruiting a CFO and a wife without paying a single dime in headhunting fees. Nathan smiled a rare, radiant smile. Because I am an investor. I never let the greatest deal of my life slip through my fingers. He leaned down and kissed my forehead, a gentle but deeply possessive kiss. Come home. The house is freezing without you. I haven't been able to sleep. I moved back into the Malibu waterfront estate. This time, I wasn't a guest or an actress playing a part. I was the true lady of the house, and Nathan's woman. Our lives weren't as romantic as a Hollywood movie. We were still workaholics, busy with projects and business trips. Our dinners sometimes consisted of fiery debates over business strategy or stock market fluctuations. But within that dry pragmatism, there was an incredibly deep, unbreakable bond. One weekend evening, Nathan and I sat out on the balcony watching the Pacific Ocean. The cool breeze blew past, and I rested my head on his shoulder, feeling an overwhelming sense of peace. You know, I said softly, I used to think happiness meant sacrificing everything for your husband and kids, stepping back to be the support system. But now I understand that true happiness is when you get to be yourself, when you are respected, and when you conquer new heights alongside the person you love. Nathan squeezed my shoulder gently. You taught me that women are not the weaker sex. You are the greatest warrior I have ever met. Thank you for showing up at that cafe that day. Thank you for agreeing to sign my insane contract. Thank you for not signing my divorce papers. I laughed. Not in this lifetime. Nathan kissed my hair. I'm a shark. Once I bite onto something, I never let go. Nathan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and smiled. Q3 financials. Profits are up 30%. That's all thanks to my wife. So, what should your bonus be? Give me your whole life as a bonus. How about that? I teased. Deal, he laughed happily. The painful past was far behind us. Tyler and Madison were paying for their sins behind federal bars. As for me, I held my own happiness in my hands. A practical, grounded happiness built on logic, courage, and a mature love. The multi-million-dollar marriage contract from years ago had now become a lifetime commitment, the most successful merger that both Nathan and I were lucky enough to execute. Ladies and gentlemen, as we close this turbulent journey from a betrayed wife to the true lady of the Sterling Empire, Haley's story stands as an ironclad affirmation of a woman's self-worth. Through the downfalls of Tyler and Madison, we learn that deceit and greed may bring temporary gains, but intellect and courage are the only true lifetime insurance policies for happiness. Haley's ultimate fulfillment is the clearest proof of this lesson. A woman only truly finds true love and peace when she stops sacrificing blindly, learns to value her own worth, and finds the strength to stand as an equal beside the man of her life, both in love and in career. Thank you for watching.